we get a cup of coffee in here, please?
Geez, there's a lot of buttons to push now.
Damn good coffee and hot.
Wake up, America. You've got a dog that needs walking. That's right, sunshine. Just put on a big pot of strong coffee and get ready to type your little hate mail with your opinions about kumbaya and flat earth insanity. Stand-up comedy? You want stand-up comedy? Well, we've got sit-down comedy. It's time for Coffee with the Dog. You make me laugh.
Yeah. I tell you what, there was a lot of laughing going on yesterday, wasn't there? Laughing, I say. Up for the right reason. We are live on Instagram, by the way, and I don't know where it goes. I don't know where it goes. Where does it go? You know what? A little more coffee. Very good. Very good. Mind Dog Coffee, which we're still in business, by the way. Get your coffee in time for next Christmas if you order today, and not the one Christmas coming up in a week or so. I don't know. Can you even see me over there on Instagram? I don't know. Or do we even fit in the, we do kind of. Yeah, they put you right in the middle they put you right in the middle of a, anyway, it's, good morning. It is, Tuesday, the worst day of the week. Mr. Pessimist here, who, terrible things just keep happening to me because of my attitude. It's Tuesday morning. December 19th, 2023. Hope you're having a wonderful day, despite my pessimism and bringing you just awful things just through my attitude and everything. Anyway, yesterday was quite an interesting day, don't you think? If you weren't here yesterday, let me backtrack, back you up here. Now, there was some talk. I got to be careful here about talking about what we talked about because I don't want to get untalked about and pulled down. There was some talk about making money on Facebook and a letter that a lot of people go around. Now, it's supposed to be an exclusive thing. Facebook sends around this letter asking you or inviting you to join their little challenge promotional nonsense. And what the goal of that is to get you to post constantly and live on Facebook, set up a creator account, link your bank account to that so that you can get paid for posting, and they do tell you what kind of post they want to increase engagement and all that kind of stuff. And most people who do that, if you follow along with any of this stuff and you have a Meta Business Suite, you know that I'm one of those people who is constantly posting stuff, not necessarily personally. AI does a lot of it for me. A lot of it is automated. A lot of it is pre-scheduled and all that kind of stuff. But releasing content quite often. I have over 300 pages on Facebook. I'm constantly trying to manage and keep up with the algorithm. And I'm not doing it for money. But I am one of these content creators who get paid for posting content. Now, I will tell you, 14.7 million views over the last 6 months on Facebook on all 300 pages combined. I have made $2.37. Now, you get paid more for engagement and comments like that and stuff like that, but 14.7 million complete views. Now, a view is anytime it shows up in a feed. I get that. It's not a lot of engagement. You could just scroll past it, and that counts as a view. 14.7 million views, $2.37. And results may vary. You may get $2.38. But the amount of people who are making tens of thousands of dollars in a month, you can count on my dick. Short guy, in other words. So, we, so that was the discussion yesterday. Willie is under the impression that he's got money in the bank coming to him from Facebook at the end of, and I hope he does. I honestly, just because I say be careful about these things and not to spend the money before you actually have the money, doesn't mean I don't want him to have the money. I would love, listen, he could have bought his own. Definitely want him to have the money. But got a little contentious with me saying, don't count your chickens. I said, don't be, well, you weren't a chicken farmer, and GD chimed in with, yeah, you shouldn't count your chickens before they hatch, and then went down that road. And then Willie really tried to kind of, when you want the law of attraction to be true, it's really hard to deal with people like me who say, you're not seeing the full picture here. And the law of attraction is fine, and this is where it falls apart for people. It's fine as long as you think about, if you think about positive things, man, good things will come your way. And it's the kumbaya of that. If it's a positive thing and it works for you, go with it. But here's where it falls apart, is when anytime somebody gives you pushback about it and you start to get a little agitated, all of a sudden you're not responsible for things that come your way. In other words, and this is a conversation I had with the guy I had to ban yesterday because he's not welcome here. If I make you angry by suggesting your law of attraction stuff is not all it's cracked up to be, and that hurts you, and I'm starting to say hurtful things at you, that's my fault, according to you don't bear any responsibility to that. Didn't your negative thoughts and actions produce my result? Or better yet, didn't the direct cause and effect of that produce that result? In other words, you were bringing something to me that I don't agree with, and I pointed out why I don't agree with it. Now it's hurting you that I'm not on board with your magical belief system. But that's all on me. Let me further elaborate. Yesterday, somebody I know, who is one of two people, actually, a couple, most positive young people you will ever want to meet. They're not like me. They're not pessimists. They're not naysayers. They don't really, engage in talk about things like the law of attraction, but they are extremely positive people. They had one of the worst tragedies a couple could ever have. That's all I'm going to say about it. I don't want to describe it. But if in order to subscribe to the law of attraction, you have to believe that they brought that tragedy upon themselves. This is a tragedy. These are young people in their 30s, early 30s. And this is something that's going to scar them for life. The worst tragedy a young couple could possibly have. And you have to believe, if you believe in the law of attraction, you have to believe that they deserved it. They brought it upon themselves through their negative thoughts and actions. And again, they have known it. These are the most positive young people. I've known the guy since he was 16. Very positive person. I've never seen anybody so full of joy and life and optimism. So if you believe that he deserved it because he brought this upon himself, that is what the core of the law of attraction is. Now, a lot of people, because I asked on Facebook to believe in law of attraction, 3 or 4 people said yes. Um, but then the follow-up is: do you believe that uh, every tragedy is brought on by your own negative thoughts? And Kelly was the only one who responded to that, and she said no. She believes in the law of attraction. She believes in believing in positive things will lead to a positive result, but not so much on board with the flip side of it. And the flip, you can't ignore the flip side. The flip side is there. It's part of the equation. It's part of the law of attraction. So either you do or you don't. And Willie addressed that to me. Well, did you ever stop to consider for a moment that all the terrible things that keep happening to you are a result of your attitude? Well, again, if you can define what the terrible things that are happening to me are, we can have this discussion. But because terrible things aren't happening to me, I have nothing to prove. I've done my work for my life. I'm retired, really, and having fun doing what I do. Even though I am a pessimist for humanity, I have no goals for myself. I mean, again, I express this every day. I could die tomorrow and feel like my life has been a very full life. I don't want to die. I don't want to feel death. I don't want to feel the act of dying. But if I were dead, I wouldn't miss much. I mean, I've lived my life, so there really are no terrible things. But that idea, the terrible things that happen to you are your own responsibility. That is the core of the law of attraction. Okay. So either you believe that these young people deserve that tragedy because of their attitude. And you didn't without even knowing their attitude, but I told you they are the most uplifting and positive people I've ever met. Kind of falls apart. So that's my belief on the law of attraction. You are free to disagree with me all you want. And if it works for you, fine. Just remember, though, the negative side of that is always there, and you can't escape, and you can't just cherry pick. Oh, well, I believe in this religion because it is a religion. I believe in this religion only the parts that feel good, only the parts I want to believe in, not the other side of it. You can't have it both ways. Well, you can. I mean, but you're fooling yourself if you think that it only works one way. There isn't a one-way street in the belief system there. It's a two-way street. So we had that discussion, and a half hour afterwards, I got a notice from YouTube that they had pulled down the content because it was promoting a scam. Because the dollar amount was stated because the time limit, the 30 days in the middle of January where the money was coming in, YouTube's algorithm just picked up on all this language and said they're promoting this scam. Now, I did the best I could to push back on that without just saying, don't do this. But I did say, be careful about this. Don't count your chickens before you. Don't go into debt because that was part of the plan. Borrowing $10,000 against something that hadn't materialized yet, and saying it was imaginary money and all that, because it is. It's until you can hold it in your hands. It's potential. It's imaginary, but it doesn't exist. So to take a loan out against it in advance. Now, who's going to be crazy enough to just go to their accountant and say, "Hey, can I have 10 grand to give this guy? He's gonna get it back. He's gonna make a big landfall." Now, the best way to make money fast is to get a real job. That's the best way to make real money fast. Get a real job, and I'm not talking about a burger flipping job. Go get a job that really adds value to people or companies that pays well. That's the fastest way. Now, if you feel unqualified by that, to get that kind of a job that pays, I don't know too many jobs that pay the kind of money we were talking about yesterday that you can just go in and get But listen, if the law of attraction works and you can just believe in yourself and have positive thoughts, why can't you get that job? Because the Facebook scam, and it is a scam, requires you to work more hours than that job will. And at the end of the 30 days, you're going to find out that the check promised is nowhere near the expectations. So I did all I could to push back on that. YouTube took the content down. I wrote an appeal, a lengthy appeal, stating just what I just said, that I pushed back as hard as I could. I can't control what other people are going to say, but I can offer pushback and put the message out there that people should be careful about this. It sounds scammy to me. I think I said that several times in the program. YouTube came back to me. Well, we're investigating this further. And then finally they said just about 20 minutes ago, half hour ago. Well, I've been talking for 20 minutes, probably about 40 minutes ago now, that they reviewed the case and they agreed with me that I did enough pushback, and they're putting the content back up. To make it right, we're putting the content back up. Yeah, but we're missing a little something here. At the time they took it down, the thing was getting 200 views per hour. When they put it back up today, it's getting 2 views per hour. That makes a big difference to somebody who, so we now the guests, the scheduled guests, I found on Podmatch, which is a service that puts podcasters together with guests. Or he found me, and he wrote me a letter originally, and this is how it got started, that this is what he wanted to present. I read through his stuff. We booked him, sent him his confirmation email, sent him his links to join the show, and he ignored them and went to Podmatch and was sitting on Podmatch yesterday, waiting for a stream to magically appear on Podmatch and wondering where I was. This is a guy who wants to change America in a very fundamental way. And he's sitting on a website waiting for magic to happen, waiting for me to magically appear to just kind of pull him off of that website and into our show. And so he was there for 3 hours yesterday waiting for that magic to happen. Of course, it never happened. Read your email. I hate to, So I basically told him that, you got to check your email. The confirmation came through the email. The links come through email. The Podmatch is just for making the initial contact. But after that, it's a direct connection between you and I send you an email link and you join that way. But if you want to reschedule, I said, here's the thing. I said that this was the worst idea that I had ever heard, but I did not want my audience to necessarily agree with me. I wanted to give you the opportunity to present the material and let them say if I'm crazy or not, because I don't see any value in the idea that you're proposing. So anyway, good morning, Jesse. Jesse Lewis, by the way, will be with us in the next hour. He is a comedy hypnotist out of Canada, and we look forward to that very much, having him on and having some laughs and changing the subject a little bit. And oh, by the way, Willie won't be here till the second hour either. He's running late. He had a comedy show last night, and I don't know what happened, but he's going to be here in the second hour. He's not here yet. Anyway, where was I? So bottom line is I told this guy he could reschedule, but he said it's okay with me. It's okay with him if I push back really hard. He goes, but if you want to be a shock jock and just just rip me a new one, at least give me advance notice on that. So I got to write back to him. And I'm not sure whether I'm really going to even have him on the program again, because we went over the content. I don't think I'm not sure he's going to be able to present it in any way better than I presented it for him yesterday. I read basically his proposal. So you know what it is if you were on the show, and you know basically it's a states' rights proposal that really has nothing about states' rights. It has more about presidents visiting states and Congress restructuring Congress and the Senate, reducing payroll as if that's going to affect the debt. But I didn't see anything in there on how that affects states' rights, which I'm not really a big proponent of states' rights, considering what we've seen in some of the states since the Roe v. Wade decision came down to the Supreme Court last year, and the fact that we already fought a civil war over states' rights. Because there are, I promise you, and I'm not being hyperbolic here, there are states that would love to go back to instituting slavery. That was what the Civil War was fought over. States' rights, the state's right to be a slave state. And if you think Mississippi doesn't want to go back there, you're not paying attention. You're not. Now, could they? I mean, how you going to round up all the black folks and make them work on a farm again? I don't know what the plan is, but they would desire to do that. So I'm not a big fan of states' rights, and that's just my position. So, anyways, I'll bring GD in here now, and we'll talk about some of this stuff.
Go from slavery to bringing in GD, the black guy who's working for free.
Who's working for nothing. But I have to say, you are slacking on the cotton production, brother.
That's because you have a rayon farm.
Well, this is actually, this is a cotton shirt, I think.
Can't get cotton from a rayon farm.
Yeah, that's true.
Go
ahead.
Sorry, look. Mind Dog Coffee. No matter what it is or who commenced it, I'm against it.
Oh.
Mind Dog Coffee.
Oh, stealing a little from Groucho there. Well, that's appropriate, I guess. Borrowing, right? Borrowing from Groucho a little bit there. That's appropriate, I guess, because I am very grouchy. I guess I have a really piss poor attitude. Listen, I know I'm a pessimist for humanity, but personally, I'm not really a pessimist. Like, there's nothing that can really. What do I got to lose?
Yes.
Well, I have nothing to be pessimistic about. Anyway.
I could be wrong. I think Willie wanted me to come up with like 366 of these things so that we could have a Mind Dog Coffee calendar, and so each day would have like a difference. But that's ridiculous. That's more time than I actually am willing to contribute to anything.
Well, we could have AI spit that out in a minute, probably. Just make just feed in, give us a bunch of variables on Mind Dog Coffee, why you should drink it, and make it rude, crude, and ugly. And
is that what you think I do? That's a shame.
no, I'm not saying what the colon stuff was rude and crude and ugly, but other than that,
was poetic. Oh my gosh.
Look, the visual that goes along with an empty or a clean colon or whatever it is.
Yes, that's beautiful. Have you ever seen? Because I've seen some nasty colons on video, and
I have seen them up front. I'm the guy who videotaped them.
Oh, that's right. So you know what I'm talking about. So you've seen a clean colon. That's a thing of beauty compared to the alternatives as far as colons go.
Yeah. Now, states' rights. We went over that yesterday. Do you think it's worth it to have this guy come on and present the ideas? And do you think, because he wants to know, am I going to be polite about it, or if I'm going to? No, I think I'd be polite about it and let him state the stuff. I don't know that he could do it any better than I did. Yes, I just read.
What does he mean by polite? Does he mean polite like you're not going to challenge it, or polite as in
polite like I'm not going to yell at him and not going to end up talking over him or talking down to him and calling him stupid?
Okay, whatever. You can be polite then, because I'm not sure I can.
No, you know what? I think somebody did. Somebody said fucking, because I said it was the worst idea. And somebody said fucking stupid idea. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I don't think I said fucking stupid. I think it was just stupid.
Yeah. Do you really? Because I could see listen, states' rights just doesn't appeal to me at all. But the idea itself, as expressed in that document that he sent, none of it was really about states or improving or giving states
No,
rights back. It
and
was about
anyone who doesn't, people need to read the actual secession papers to understand what the states' rights fight was about. And if they haven't read the secession papers, but they're spouting states' rights, they're idiots.
right.
Because
Right.
they're just spouting a talking point, and they don't understand what was meant by that. In the South, they wanted slaves, but if somebody made it to the North where they were free, and I'm referring to black people because if the whites made it to the North, they were already free. But if black people made it to the North, let's say to New Hampshire where there was not slavery, Mississippi wanted the right to go into New Hampshire,
To go
which is
back,
a free
take it
state,
back.
to say you are no longer free. That is not states' rights because in the state of New Hampshire, he's free. That's not
Right.
states' rights.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure. Like I brought up Mississippi because I do think if given the chance, they would try to reinstate slavery if they could. Listen, I don't think there's too many Rhodes scholars in Mississippi to figure out a way to even do it. But if they given the chance, they would. But I think in most of the states' rights talk is not about slavery. It's about like abortion. It's about having the right for states to make their own laws. But again, as I brought up yesterday, it doesn't come with any extra responsibility for the states. Like, who's going to pay for your highways every time there's a national disaster? Are you going to come want to declare a federal disaster area and get money from the feds? Because if you're giving all the power back to the states, we got to reverse all that stuff. I'm in New York. I'm not paying for every fucking hurricane that hits Florida now.
Yeah. And another thing that people may not realize is that once when slavery was abolished, that was federal. A lot of states kept slavery on their books. So
Right.
if for some strange reason, let's say a technicality, Clarence Thomas votes to abolish the abolishment of slavery, to reverse that decision or something, it says, wait a second, that was not right. Slavery can still be a thing. There are states that have it on their books. Now,
Right.
they can't go around rounding up black people. It just won't happen.
Maybe they get some fresh new ones, though.
But I was just saying, but there isn't. What's to say that there isn't like some kind of way that they will go? Okay, well, maybe we can make children slaves. Cheap labor, because it's about power control and cheap labor. So
Right.
they don't care where the labor comes from. If it's monkeys or people that they call monkeys, they don't care as long as they can get their cheap labor.
Yeah, and also, now there's all these kind of things about voting rights that are different states. And the guy who was speaking at TPAC yesterday wanted to take the rights to vote away from women. Now that they keep supporting these things that are going to lose elections. I mean, people hear these things and they got to be thinking, well, I can't vote for that. You would think anyway. But
we know that's not the case.
Yeah. So the bottom line is, I'm perplexed on whether I should even let this guy have his say. People will bore the fuck out of people. They've already heard it. People probably already made up their minds, and I have made up my mind. And I made it clear to him that I've made up my mind that I don't like the idea that he's proposing, but I do feel like I kind of owe him the right to state it on his own and just back out and let him say it and let people draw their own conclusions, because I really, I'm an idiot. And so if anybody is just taking the discussion that you and I and Will had about it yesterday and thinking, well, they're right, without hearing his side, I feel like I've done him a disservice. So I gotta let.
The only thing that he could, as far as I'm concerned, the one thing he could add, I guess, is just tell us what we missed, because what it would fix. Because I don't see any solutions to anything that he's proposed. I don't see I don't. If he had everything he had, I don't see what it would fix.
Yeah, the document didn't really express anything about states' rights. It expressed how to limit the number of senators, how to increase the number of House of Representatives, how to take money away from salaries for people, taking the buildings back and making them museums or all that kind of stuff, having the president visit every state and territory in the that the United States owns, which means president would have to go to Guam. He would have to go to Virgin Islands. I mean, every place that Greenland, wherever the fuck we are, wherever we have a presence.
Yeah. Now the funny thing is, he's got this thing where he says he has to visit for how long? Because there's only 52 weeks in a year.
Right.
We already have 50 states, and I don't know how many territories. So does he have to visit each one for an hour?
Yeah.
Flyover count.
In 1979 or 80. I drove from San Diego, California to Lindenhurst, New York in 39 hours. But I probably hit 15 states along the way. Does that count? I mean,
right, that's it. Because when I was 17, drove from Maryland to California, but we drove like this because we went to like New York through Canada, back down to Michigan, hit Texas. The Four Corners, which does that count? You stayed at the Four Corners. You said give a speech at the Four Corners, and then you just hit 4 states.
Yeah.
Go to another spot like in Maryland. In Maryland, there's this place where you can stand. You'll be in Maryland, West Virginia, and Virginia at one time.
Right.
Stand there, give a speech. Does that count? No.
I don't. Is it giving a speech what it's about, and how the fuck does that help restore states' rights that the president would have just visit? So he shows up. They're just fucking talking anyway. If he
had said he wanted to abolish, let's say the what's that thing called? The Electoral College. Yes, now that might encourage people to visit more states as opposed to visiting electoral votes. Because now you're trying to get an entire population on your side. That would do more to encourage than what he's proposing.
Right. So I feel like, you know what, it might be a short segment. Maybe I just have him on to explain exactly how this affects states' rights. I will bite my tongue, let him say what he already knows that personally, even if he can explain it in a way that it does really restore rights to the states, I'm not for that idea. I think it's crazy.
And also at this rate, well, at least in the case of Biden, most presidents will visit disaster sites, disaster areas. And the way we're going, I'm pretty sure each state will have a disaster a year.
Yeah.
So he can take that sentence right on out of there. Between natural disasters, mass shootings, and pandemics, you're going to go visit everything anyway. Maybe not for the right reason, but he'll visit.
That whole president have to visit every state. That would fix one problem. We'd probably have to vote for a younger president, because there's no way an 80-year-old is fucking getting around, just traveling like with that kind of schedule. Because if you look at touring musicians or touring comedians or whatever, 50 states in a year is a lot to visit anyway. And not just 50 states, but every territory as well. You're on the road all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a constant road visit.
But at least he has his own plane and his own copter.
Right.
And he can designate a copter from like any military base as Marine One. So
right. Now let me segue to your, and if you don't want to ruffle any feathers, that's fine, and don't want to comment on it. But this idea about the law of attraction going one way. If I believe in positive things and good things come my way, I believe in the law of attraction. But if anything negative happens to me, somebody else's fault. It ain't my fault. I didn't bring that upon myself. So even if you bring up the law of attraction with me and I'm against it and I give you pushback and it ends up in a heated argument, it always comes back to when I'm talking to these people. Why am I? It's all my energy that is going back to them. Well, didn't you manifest this in me? Didn't you? The anger that you're seeing from me. Didn't you manifest that? Because everything is a manifestation of our thoughts. The life we experience is a manifestation of our thoughts and all that kind of stuff. So what I'm giving you right now, you wanted that. You kind of created that, didn't you?
It's so funny because when I was starting to be a minister, one of the principles that they talked about was the law of attraction, and that was like that was like really being drilled and put out there. Like, you get what you put out there. It was like it was almost doctrine. And as I got a little bit older, I don't think there's such thing as a law of attraction. I think it's a law of preparedness and observation. Okay, and that is if there's no secret. I want to be a comedian, and I want to get booked for jobs, but I don't want to work too hard at it because I'm never going to have that result where it's going to be worth this, killing myself to be famous. That's never going to happen, but I enjoy doing it. So I like to get booked. I can sit around and not be prepared as a comedian and hope somebody books me and sit in my room and do nothing. Or I can be prepared with good material or material that I think is good, and then keep my eyes open for opportunities, try to create opportunities. And when they come along, notice it, be smart enough to notice it, brave enough to attempt it, and tactful enough not to fuck it up.
Yeah. But the other side of that is if you start to believe that everything is a manifestation of your thoughts, you get in a car accident, you can never it's never the other guy's fault. You can't go there and say, well, it's his fault. You must have wanted that. You must have brought that upon yourself in some way with all your negative thoughts and attitudes. Everything that happens is a result of your attitude and your thoughts and your belief systems. Well, then, you fucking step in a puddle. You deserve that, man. That's what you brought upon yourself. You got to stop thinking like it's a very Tom Segura ideology. It basically, everything that happens to you, good and bad, you deserve, and you should be happy to have it because you created that for yourself. It's really bizarre.
When I was in high school, we had a friend. He was actually a media specialist. I was a student in high school. He was the media specialist, so he was an adult. He was like a mentor to us. And if someone in our little group would say, "That's not right. That's not what's supposed to happen," he would immediately say, "Then what was supposed to happen?" Because all of the events that took place led up to this moment where this was what is supposed to happen.
Right.
So what do you mean that's not what's supposed to happen? You mean that's not what you want to happen,
Yeah.
And he wouldn't let us say that. If he heard someone say it, we knew that what was coming.
Right. Yes, I want to move on from that, but the idea that because I won against YouTube, which is rare that you win against YouTube. It was quite a few times back and forth. Usually it's one and none. We reviewed your repeal and we're rejecting it and giving you a strike because you bothered to appeal.
Yeah.
But yesterday it was an actual conversation, and I said, what could I do? What could I have done more than that? Would you like me just to hit the cancel button and kick him out of the room and say you can't talk about this thing that you're doing? I mean, what they want me to do? And they at the end of it, after further review, you're right. You did not violate our terms. So I was like, wow, that's something. YouTube's
it's getting
growing
better because I used to get those things. I mean, I had been on probation so many times that I gave up. I gave up. I just stopped fighting. It's like I'm just going to do what I'm going to do because fuck it. I don't even know how many strikes I got now. If it were a baseball game, I would have lost 2 games in a row just on strikeouts.
Right. And basically, what this validates for me is I had a negative attitude going into it. I was appealing, thinking that appeal was going to get shot down immediately.
Yeah.
That was my attitude going in. But I manifested the opposite with a negative attitude. So all that, it kind of goes out the window. And then my wife came to me with news about our young friends who had this tragedy. And I thought, well, how do people who believe in this law of attraction stuff, how do you deal with that? Do you say that, that's tragedy that you had, you deserve that, you brought that on yourself?
It's my mother used to say, I mean, okay, again, because of my theological background and philosophy, and my mom also had a background in let's say supernatural, spiritual stuff. So we would have these talks, especially if something happened and I was not exactly pleased with the results. And I'd say, Mom, this is really stupid. And my mother would say, almost always, she'd start off with, baby, God never gives you more than you can handle. And I'd retort, then God doesn't know who I am because I can't handle this shit. And she goes, you're still here? I said, this is not me handling it because I came to you for advice.
Right.
When I go to my mother for advice, I have broken down.
Well, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, but it also makes you almost dead.
Yeah. It may make
almost
you
killed.
Yeah, you may be stronger, but at least your left arm will be stronger because it has to pick up all the slack because you lost your right arm.
Right. Yeah. There's all that kind of basic cliches and stuff. Now, if it serves people to believe that they are destined to win the lottery, who am I to say that they shouldn't believe in that? But the odds still remain the same. That if you look at and all these, coming back to the Willie thing with Facebook yesterday, all these things on whether if it's about making money online, realize it's a full-time job. So you might as well just get a full-time job.
Yeah, with a pager.
Right.
Because I was just saying that to my wife. I said, my wife used to talk about how prolific I was at creating memes, for Politipod and stuff. And she'd say, oh my God, you're like writing like 10 jokes a day, and I would go like, yeah, but it's being seen by like 8 people, whatever. So, but I was doing that, and I just can't imagine trying to create the amount of content that Willie is referring to. It's just not enough hours in a day.
It's not just that, but you also have to make sure that you're getting engagement on that content. Now they give you some guidelines and all that stuff,
right?
But I gave you my number, and listen, all the channels that I have on Facebook is ridiculous. I have food channels, I have dog and cat channels, I have all sorts. I have dietary stuff. All those were businesses that I was associated with one time, but I have over 300 channels. Some of them I don't even pay attention to anymore. But again, with all the interaction combined on all of them, over 6 months, $2.37, and that's having a lot more followers than the average person who gets invited to these kind of things.
Yeah.
You have to really dedicate 24/7 to fucking churning out content. And what value are you really bringing to society, to anybody other than Mark Zuckerberg, by increasing that kind of engagement? All you're doing is getting people addicted to meaningless. And I'm saying this as a person who is totally guilty of this. I'm putting out reels that add no value to anybody's fucking life at all. But I know that it's going to, well, the hope is that it's going to put more eyes on what we do in the morning. That's all I'm doing it for. But it really, at the end of the day, what value does it add? None. The best way to make money is to add value to people's lives. Give them a product or service they need or want, and you'll make money. So all that kind of stuff. I don't. So I believe most of that stuff is scammy. I can understand, but that overriding position that everything is a scam would have led me to the same conclusion that John Locken had about the blueprint for success with Barry Katz. Now, after I was open-minded enough to check out the Barry Katz stuff, there is a great deal of quality value content there that is absolutely free and no push to kind of upsell you on anything. So all I'm saying is that you got to still be open-minded to at least be open-minded to listen to what it's really about before you make the decision that it's a scam.
Right.
Facebook stuff, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's some things like I'm looking at the things that you're saying. Like I look at when I go to Vegas or when I go to any place to gamble. I only put out as much as I'm willing to lose. That's it. If I can't afford to lose it, I'm not risking it. So if it's like if it's an opportunity to listen to something for free, if it's not stealing money, asking for money up front, it's free. Yeah, sure. I'll when I get if I have the opportunity, sure, because there's also opportunity cost as well.
Carl needs a pasty named after him. I don't know if pastry or pasty.
I think he means pasty. Have you seen his tits?
I don't know anything about. I don't know anything about pasties or pastries. To be fair, Carl needs a pasty named after him with a caramel spinach filling. I think it's got to be pastry, right? The pasties don't have fillings.
Again, what clubs have you been to?
None. I don't. None. I only go where I'm playing.
This is across the pond. They could have pasties that have like squirt stuff. You know, we don't know.
Ian's not across the pond.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading Carl.
Ian, he's talking about Carl, but he's making. This is Ian making the comment here. Anyway, it's all confusing. I know it's all so confusing. Pasty, yeah.
Okay.
Pasty is a British treat. One of Carl's favorites. I did not know that. Well, there you go. You know more about Carl than I ever did or ever will, probably. Anyway, you know what? Let's play a really quick commercial while I can. Because time is running out for Creative Live, you should check out their 70% store-wide sale right now.
It's time to unleash your creative excellence. Dreams won't work if you don't. They never happen overnight, and they rarely follow a straight line. Excellence is a result of the hustle, consistently pushing to do better. And success looks different for everyone. CreativeLive.com charts paths and tailors content for students, but they also encourage independent thinking and exploration. Go outside of your comfort zone. Who knows? You might actually like it. Right now, you can get up to 70% off through this exclusive offer for Coffee with the Dog. CreativeLive.com has site-wide sale for Coffee with the Dog listeners. Save up to 70% off. Go to minddogtv.com and click on the link on the homepage now.
This blank screen is brought to you by Carl's Hotel Room. Carl's Hotel Room. Go in it. Do live streams without him realizing you're going to do a live stream from there.
Like Carl's Hotel Room. We leave the light off for you.
Yeah. Oh, Tom Bodette. We remember Tom Bodette.
Yeah.
We'll leave a light on for you. Yesterday in the comments, Mike Shavola, and he wrote something that I'm not sure what it was referencing because we were all over the map yesterday, and I was talking political stuff, and I was talking about the Republican desire for a theocracy, and I think that's what he commented on. He said, "I don't think it was so much about the religion. They view the opposition."
I know it was. He was referring to that guy,
Mike Shavola.
No, he was referring to the guy who was like who visited Trump. He's like a white.
Nick Fuentes.
Right, he was referring to him because he was talking about. Wasn't he the one that was saying he wants to kill?
He wants to stop by killing the Jews on day one, annihilate all the non-Jews.
Right. He was saying he doesn't think that's about religion. It's more about patriotism. I think that's my understanding.
Well, I don't know. I wonder if he's here today to clarify. I don't see how you could read that as any other way than about the religion. But that whole statement about patriotism, what does patriotism mean? Because the opposition is not just Democrats, even though there are lots of Democrats who I would call patriots. They're lifelong military people or people who have given their life to service of the country. I would call them patriots, even if you disagree with their politics. The idea of being loyal to the country or serving the country, I don't know how you can question that. But to say that the Republican Party, it thinks the opposition is all unpatriotic, and it's not about religion, you'd have to ignore the fact that at least half of them in Congress now, in the House of Representatives anyway, have called for a biblical citizenship test. The Speaker of the House has said plain out that he wants Christianity to be the religion of the United States of America, and so all their statements put together, I don't think you can deny in any way, if you're really paying attention to what they're saying, that the goal is theocracy and it's Christian nationalism.
Right.
So, but it's to say that they think the opposition to Trump, now not the opposition to the Republican Party, this is the opposition to Trump, is all unpatriotic. You're talking about Adam Kinzinger, who was a Republican till they kicked him out because he was opposed to Trump, but he served in two active duty deployments, and I don't think you can question his patriotism. General Miley, who is opposed to Trump, if you're going to question his patriotism, you got a lot to prove on your own side on that.
And Lindsey Graham was a jack officer, a jack off, sir. He jack off.
Matt said, as long as you are Catholic, you could be part of the mission. I was simply saying, I don't know, it was about religion. I did not say that about the Catholic being part of it. No. First of all, Catholics and Christians, that's
not
a whole
the same breed.
Yeah, it's not the same. Born again Christians, the people who want the biblical citizenship test are not Catholic at all.
And they're not even adhering to the words of Jesus, the teachings of Jesus.
Right.
And
people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Boebert and Johnson and the people who are calling for they are against the Catholic Church. They hate the Pope, and you can see why. The Pope is pretty liberal. He just, he
just allowed him. He just said that gay same-sex marriage can be blessed.
Yeah. So there is no connection in my mind between Catholicism and the militia. That's just not a thing. But I do think, probably if you missed last week where I was talking about Rudy and the connection to the Catholic Church in Rockville Center, and that church's head guy, Al Placa, connected to the Long Island serial killer. I think the Catholic Church has a whole lot of problems that don't involve necessarily Trumpism, politics, any of that kind of stuff. It's more priest fucking little boys playing hide the priest type of thing. Their problem. So that the projection of the pedophilia part of it by the people who align with the Catholic Church is pretty fucking laughable. When you got 666 complaints against Rockville Center Diocese, and the one guy who's in charge of it playing hide the pervert priest, who also happened to be at the property where Karen Verdada's skull washed up. Karen Verdada, one of the Long Island serial killer victims, but also was a mentor to the Long Island serial killer in his youth when his father passed away, and took the young man under his wing, and he's still connected to him through his work with Catholic Charities. All that stuff is really, really fucking seedy. I have not done a longer piece on that because it's so convoluted. It starts to sound like Alex Jones with the penis cans and the frogs. Frogs can change their sex, and they want to make people be able to change their sex. Like, so you put a liner in the Pepsi can, and then make your penis small. Like your daddy's penis was 12 inches long. Your penis, your grandpa's penis was 12 inches long. Your daddy was 6 inches long. Your penis is only gonna be 6 inch long because of Pepsi can. And I don't want to sound like that, even though I just did sound like that.
Yeah, because I think you meant 5 inches, right?
Well, I don't know. Why Pepsi? I mean, can't we have like CNC Cola or one of these generic brands being responsible for? Because Pepsi is a Japanese brand. That's why.
Oh, I'll say because I know it's not RC. I can tell you for a fact it's not RC Cola that makes that shrinks it because RC Cola is my brand. I like RC Cola. If I were to drink cola because I'm diabetic, I can only
Listen,
can
do me
only
a
have.
favor. Next time I start doing Alan Jones, just yell at me. Shut the fuck up.
It's hard for me to tell the difference between your Alex Jones and some of your other impersonations. See, RFK, that's RFQ.
Yeah, that's RFQ. But Alex Jones is this guy.
Oh, okay,
But
it's
he
the
fucks
same
up.
voice without the finger. Got it.
It's close. Let me see. Pepsi can. No, it's not really.
So if you're fingering yourself, it's RFQ. If you're not fingering yourself,
you got to get a little
Alex
more
Jones.
growl in there to be Alex Jones. Like, it's all about Pepsi cans and peanut size anyway with Alex. But RFQ, it's more about vaccines and stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's just, and the other part of all that stuff is basically it is a conspiracy theory, but it's a conspiracy theory that is not really a conspiracy about or posed as a conspiracy of a planned out conspiracy. I don't know, a conspiracy of convenience. It's not like the Catholic Church and the pedophiles and the serial killers all got together and said, let's do this thing.
Right.
It's like, oh, by the way, I fucked a guy. The priest is saying, I fucked this little boy, and now he's becoming violent. I gotta help him cover up his violence, or else he's gonna expose me. So it's kind of like it wasn't meant to be a conspiracy, and I don't want it to sound like I'm coming off like Alex Jones, where they all planned this. The deep state got behind doors, and they all planned this.
Okay, yeah, it's not like they planned it. It's more like they're trying to prevent being caught.
It just happened. Yeah.
And that happened, and now they're just trying to not get caught.
And that's how organized crime, because there's the whole thing about organized crime. It seemed really disorganized. It is really disorganized. It comes together not as a master plan, but, oh, I heard so-and-so robbed the bank. See if we can get a piece of that. Oh, now we're in on it. Now you're dirty. Now you got to help cover it up.
Yeah, some shit fell off a truck.
Right.
Let's get our cut.
Yeah, a lot of falling off trucks happened in my neighborhood when I was growing up, and there were times, and I could say this now. It's 50 years ago. Tractor trailers would pull up at the house across the street, full of goods and they were selling them in the tractor trailer. They would park, and cops would drive down the block, see the tractor trailer there, just keep, whatever they were paid off, I guess, but not pay any attention to it, and buying washers, dryers, anything, coats, electronics, all that kind of stuff out of the back of a semi that was just parked there until they emptied it out. It was hijacked, but that happened all the time, and nobody made a big deal of it. So yeah, organized crime, and that conspiracy. People, because Rudy has been in the news a lot lately with this $148 million judgment against him.
And he still won't keep his fucking mouth shut.
Right. Yeah. Well, but the thing is, nobody is talking about Al Placa. This is a 60-year relationship Rudy has had with this guy who is the biggest pedophile the planet has ever known. And I say that not knowing how many pedophiles are really out there, but
3,714. No, I'm just kidding. No, 37,147,912.
Okay. Well, he's number one, by the way. But
I'm sorry, that's in Dubai. That's just in Dubai.
He was like the godfather of pedophile priests and wrote the manifesto for the Catholic Church to avoid getting punished over all these pedophiles. And then basically he was the one moving the ones around. And then the kicker is when they got a judgment for whatever it was, $2 billion from all a class action judgment from all these kids who now young men who had been raped by Catholic priests, they declared bankruptcy, and the courts bought that. It's like, wait a minute. This church is tied to the Vatican. They can never be bankrupt. They are the richest entity on the planet. How
Well,
could
maybe
they
it's like a franchise where the Vatican says, okay, we will take money from you, but we won't give money to you because it's like a franchise.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly what it's like. But the Rockville Center Diocese, by the way, is like probably the worst offender. I can't say I know this for a fact, but you would think with 666 complaints or actual lawsuits against them, plaintiffs, and 16 priests who were convicted. That's a lot for one parish.
Now, you may not know this, but does that parish, is the number of parishioners gone up or gone down over? I guess it's gone down over the years because of, well, a lot of people left because of COVID, never came back. So that's I guess that's not a good. Never mind, because we don't.
It's a parish that is really. You talk about franchises. It's a parish that covers all of Long Island. So it's in one town in Long Island that is near the Brooklyn-Queens border of Long Island, but it basically covers every town on Long Island. So it's not like parishioners, every parish, and it's probably, I'm just going to take a shot in the dark here, 90 churches affiliated with in different communities that are all under this one parish. So to count the number of parishioners and all that kind of stuff, Catholic Church probably has dropped off in participation a lot over the years because they're so fucking strict. But
right.
I don't know. I don't know if COVID killed them at all. I don't think so. It'd be interesting to know. But still, altar boys getting raped. I'm sure of it. Still altar boys getting raped in Long Island parishes. The problem is, we kind of think of it as just pedophile homosexual priests. These guys are pervs all the way down the line. The Karen Vidata victim of the Long Island serial killer, she was at a swingers party. Last seen alive at a swingers party at Rex Uriman's house, which priests and other people were having sex with. It was all around free-for-all orgy, and his wife was involved and all. That's the one where I said we do know that she's involved somehow because we have an eyewitness who put her having graphic sex in graphic detail, described in graphic detail, the sex she was having across the board at this water. Now, she tried to escape, and there was a New York City cop who John Ray has not identified yet, a New York City cop who witnessed this girl desperately trying to get her. She ran outside naked saying they're going to kill me and all this kind of stuff, and they just left her there. And then her legs washed up on fire, her skull washed up. Her legs washed up. Is that
cop washed up?
No, the cop was still working as far as John Ray was, and why he's reluctant to name the guy. But her legs washed up at Tobay Beach. Her skull washed up on Fire Island on Rudy Giuliani's property, where Al Placa was staying. I mean, is it just like lottery? Are the chances of that just like getting hit by an asteroid? It's like on the head, you being the only person to get hit on the head with a single asteroid. That's the kind of odds we're talking about here. Anyway, so yeah, that was where I was going with the whole Catholic stuff. I wasn't about the malicious stuff. The malicious stuff, they could be anybody. I don't think religion falls into their mindset. They are just pure. We got to take America back by force, people, and they don't care who they shoot. They just
in the beginning they won't, but eventually they'll weed out. They'll want more purists toward the end. Once they win once they won their battle, they would start weeding out, purity, using purity tests.
Our guest has arrived, so I'm going to play a commercial, and then we'll come back and meet him. He's actually from our favorite country. Where our favorite country?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, Canada.
Canada, yeah. He's a Canadian hypnotist comedian. So we'll meet him in just 1 second.
With humble East Coast beginnings in 2015, Daily High Club is the premier destination for glass water pipes, vaporizers, and consumption accessories. If you're looking to elevate your smoking game to the next level, you're in the right place. With over 1 million top quality smoking products sold, and with a growing base of over 10,000 monthly subscribers worldwide, we deliver the ultimate smoking experience. But Daily High Club is not just another retailer. We're lovers of the smoking scene ourselves, working with giants like Tommy Chong, Snoop Dogg, Chanel West Coast, and more. Ready to join the Daily High Club? Let our experts curate your collection with our awesome El Primo monthly subscription box. Or grab one of our fun and unique pieces from our smoke shop. Get started today. Visit minddogtv.com and click on the banner on the homepage.
I believe today is the last day that you can get it in time for Christmas. Anyway, Jesse Lewis is Canadiadia's. Am I pronouncing that right? Canadiadia?
I think there's 2 C's.
Canada's premier comedy hypnotist, providing the finest in entertainment for corporate associations, schools, service clubs, and other special events. I was really hoping Will would be here. Good morning. Oh, you guys turn your radio off.
Me?
Yeah, that's good.
There we go.
Oh, are we still here, Narco?
Yeah.
Okay. StreamYard's weird, right?
Yeah. Good morning, and thank you for being here.
Good morning, Matt. We're gonna have a blast. I've been watching the show all morning, and we've got some topics to get into. Let me tell you, that's good.
All right. Well, I'm interested. Let me see if I can kill this echo here. Is there a echo cancellation on this? I think there is. Bear with me 1 second, folks. Echo cancellation is on. That's weird. Okay. We'll try to deal with it.
What if we just use every other word? That way it won't bounce back, right? If we use every other word.
Jesse, any chance you can put on headphones?
30 seconds. I'll be right back.
Okay. We'll hold down the fort till you get back.
Yeah, that's what we do. We do fort holding.
Fort holding.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to Fort Holding, folks. Now, Ian said that parish will perish. I think he meant perish, right?
Right.
I was hoping Willie would be here because I really wanted Jesse to make Willie cluck like a chicken. Comedy hypnotist. Now, he works clean, so it's not.
Yeah.
If I were doing that, I would not work clean.
He said 100% clean. I don't even know how you do that because, well, maybe Canada has a definition of clean, but in the U.S., we can't define clean.
Oh, Willie's here. Oh.
And it sounds like he's counting his eggs before they've hatched.
That's why I wanted him to cluck like a chicken, so we could get him into. It looks like Jesse got some headphones going on. Hello, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you good. I'm sorry about that. I apologize.
Oh, that's fine.
Sometimes these things go weird.
Stuff happens. I would say shit happens, but I know you like to work 100% clean, so I'm not going to say shit happens. I'll say stuff happens. Anyway,
you can say whatever you want. There's actually a specific reason I work clean. I was listening to the whole thing while I was gone. The reason I work clean is because corporate shows pay about 15 times as much as bar shows.
I understand.
So
yeah.
That's why I work clean.
Totally get it.
Yeah. So
I totally get it, and I get the benefits of corporate work. And anybody who doesn't cash in on that is probably leaving an awful lot of money on the table. So good.
Well, the way I figure I can make 10 grand in a night, or I can make $1,000. Like it's a no-brainer for me. Really.
My scale goes a little bit more drastic than that. It's like you can make $75 to $100 a night, or you can make like $10,000 a night. I would always take, because I'm pretty good at math when it comes to this kind of stuff. I would go for the bigger number. That's it.
It's just safer, right? And it may not be quite as fun as making somebody give a sucker a blowjob or something on stage, but they do that. They do that in Vegas,
right?
But corporations do that anyway.
You got to keep those.
Corporations do that anyway. That's called the ladder. So they don't need you. That's the corporate ladder.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. That's exactly.
So, what part of Canada are you in?
I'm in Saskatchewan, almost the least populated part. We're the Wyoming of Canada. It's a middle of nowhere.
Wow.
So
you got to travel pretty
Yeah.
far for work, right? If there's nothing in Saskatchewan.
I travel from Toronto to Vancouver, basically. So Americans generally, when I talk to them, don't know that much about Canada. So basically,
Vancouver is
Michigan to California.
Yeah, Vancouver is like way over here. Yeah, that's a lot of space.
Yeah, it's by Seattle.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, you're absolutely right. Americans don't know anything about Canada. I would say, when we come to provinces, I could probably name 2.
One of which you just learned.
I was going to say, he can name one city in one province, and that city is in that province.
Right.
Okay.
Toronto's in Ottawa, right?
Ontario.
Ottawa's in. Is Ottawa in Ontario as well? Am I wrong?
It's in Ontario as well. That's our capital.
All right. So we had a comedian on, Vinny Vanilli, who was going back and forth, and he's from Canada. And even he was doing people on the street interviews, and even people in Canada couldn't name how many provinces there were and all that kind of stuff. It's just interesting. Canada is really overlooked.
And Tommy Chong is from Vancouver.
Right.
Yep. Yes, he is.
Now, Montreal is different. You mentioned Toronto to Vancouver. Montreal is kind of French. It's more French than English, right?
They are. They speak almost exclusively French, and all their signs are in French. So when I go there, I'm completely fucked.
That's crazy.
I can't speak French at all.
I can't imagine.
Sorry for swearing.
Yeah.
Swearing okay? Okay.
I've been to Montreal for a weekend, and I've been to Toronto for a weekend, but never left the hotels in Montreal, so I really don't know much about the culture there.
So Montreal has the best strippers on earth. It really does.
Wow.
Sounds weird, but in Canada, we're allowed to do full nudity. So I know in the States, like there's certain parts you have to have pasties on, you have to have like a bikini on, but they go everything.
Right.
Wow. Yeah.
All right. Let me say, if I can, because I opened up talking about the law of attraction. Now, hypnotism is kind of associated with a lot of these self-help, new age type of philosophies. Is that how you got involved in hypnotism, as a self-help hypnosis, cessation?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of. When I first started, I was working a job where I was doing 400 hours a month, and you can't sustain that. It's just impossible, right? So I learned hypnosis to de-stress, and from there I read a book and went to a bar and booked a stage hypnosis show. It really was that simple. People think it's some big mystical thing. It's really not. It's having the balls to go do it. And as far as the therapy side, we all know what we need. Sometimes we need a kick in the ass to do it. Sounds a little rough, but that's the truth.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. Now, this power of visualization stuff, and you manifest the life you experience is manifested by your thoughts and beliefs. Do you subscribe to that?
Sure, but there's always the missing part, which is actually doing the work.
But so if tragedy happens, is it your fault? If a tragedy happens to somebody, did they deserve that because their attitude and beliefs brought that into their life?
Okay, so the answer is yes and no. If tragedy is happening because you're too lazy to take action on the opportunities, like, I apologize, what was the other gentleman's name? Like he was saying.
Will?
Yes, Will. Like Will was saying, if you're not going to take action on the opportunities that are presented
he was referring to me.
Then
I was talking about earlier.
Yes.
Oh, that's GD.
Yeah.
We don't need his name, do we? It's the guy.
Well, I didn't want to.
Yeah, no, I get it.
But if we don't take action on what the opportunities presented to us, of course we're going to fail. I grew up on welfare. Like, I should have been a statistic, and I'm relatively successful at what I do. So by statistical analysis, I should have been a drug addict. I should have been a criminal. I should have did a lot of things. I'm none of those things. I chose to take the opportunity. I chose to manifest, and and do things.
I beg to differ with you on one point. I think you are criminal. I'm looking at that shirt. That's a crime. No, I'm sorry.
I can't even really tell what that shirt is. I know there's
It's Santa Claus, Christmas trees, snowmen.
Candy kids.
Yeah.
Well,
No, I'm just
listen.
teasing.
Yeah,
The shirt's not a
It's
crime.
okay.
we are not Joan Rivers here of the fashion police in any way. What are you wearing?
Who are you wearing?
But
Santa.
so my biggest problem with all this stuff is like, and when a tragedy happens, say, I'm trying to really avoid talking about something, but say somebody has a death in their family. Did they deserve that? Did they bring that like a sudden death, murder, let's say? And
Okay, murder.
yeah, and it happens to somebody you're very close to. Did you manifest that into your life?
I don't believe so. I think there's things that we can control in our life, and I think there's things we can't control. I'm going to equate this back to hypnosis. So one of the things that hypnosis works for is erectile dysfunction. Now, there's organic erectile dysfunction and there's inorganic erectile dysfunction, which means a psychological problem. So if I use that as a basis, I can't do anything about what nature is, but I can do stuff about what I actually have control over. Being murdered, you don't generally have control over, sure, where you live, blah, 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 that type of stuff. But you generally don't have control over other people's actual actions. You only have control over your own actions. And through those actions, you can theoretically manifest bigger and better things, theoretically.
Right.
It's like a comedian. If you're always at the same dive bar all the time, you can't expect to get booked for big corporate gigs. Same is true for me. If I'm going to a bar and I'm doing a dirty show, that completely takes me out of the corporate world.
Fair enough.
So I manifest where I can go, right?
No, I get it. And that's I definitely believe that you can visualize and create a goal for yourself, and that will help you move towards that goal in positive, constructive ways. So I believe in all that stuff. It's just when it comes down to the magical thinking part of the law of attraction is where it really gets really rejectionable for me and objectionable for me, is that, we go too far in what our minds can create and believe that everything that happens to us is a manifestation of our thoughts and beliefs, and that's not always the case. There are definitely exceptions, as we just mentioned, so thank you for that. Now, coming to your comedy act and hypnosis, when I was going to ask if Will was here today, I was going to ask you to make him cluck like a chicken. That's got to be number one on the request list, right?
The thing is, most hypnotists haven't done that since the 70s. It's crazy how long that has persisted. And really, is it even that funny?
No.
Wait a minute,
I get it, but
stop. Were chickens complaining about cultural appropriation?
I don't think so. The other one I get is, can you hypnotize my wife to do things in bed? And it's like, why would your wife want to do you in the first place? Talk about manifestation there.
Forget about in bed. Can you hypnotize her to cook?
Yeah, exactly. Get her to do anything.
Yeah. No. So
I'm going to get in trouble.
So now, what would be the number one? Like, do you get requests, or you just go out there and do a prepared act?
So it's semi-prepared, right? So hypnosis, all it really is the hypnotist has the balls to go up there and do it, and the audience is basically improv actors. That's really all it is, and they follow suggestions on stage. There's a hypnosis part of it, getting people to actually go into the yes set. But the number one thing that I do, there's a couple, and because of the age we live in, I actually can't do one anymore, and it's pregnant men. I get a unicorn to explode in their imagination. It impregnates them through. It's weird. Yeah. It's like an acid trip, but they imagine they've been impregnated by a unicorn, by it exploding and breathing the unicorn dust in, and then they have a unicorn baby. And because of the day we live in now, with everything being so politically correct, I can't actually do that skit anymore because it specifically targets the men.
Wow.
And we live in a really weird world where that's not allowed anymore. But that was my favorite skit, right? What is more funny to a mother than watching her husband be forced to give birth to a 200-pound unicorn, right?
And what's worse, the world needs more unicorns. Where are we going to get them if the men don't have them?
Well, that's the point of the whole show is they can't breed unless they explode and get men pregnant. So how else are they going to make babies?
Wow.
Canada is a terrible place to live because we can still do that in the U.S. You need to come down here and impregnate some men with unicorns.
All right, I'm going to ask questions as if I were a complete novice on this and don't understand hypnosis.
It's okay.
Now, because suggestibility varies between people, and generally in hypnosis, you want in training in hypnosis when you're getting started, there are things you can do to promote that. There are little things, examples you can give along the way to increase suggestibility, or at least determine somebody's suggestibility. How do you do that from stage, especially walking in cold? Do you, because we've had a comedy hypnotist on before who said he basically does, his inductions are so fast he can take anybody out of the audience and just have them under his spell in a matter of seconds. Do you do any kind of preconditioning tests or any of that kind of stuff to start with?
So the answer is yes. I do lots of things, and I'm going to throw a plug in. Go over to my TikTok, Hypnotist Jesse Lewis, and there's a bunch of tests that you can do. There's the magnetic fingers, there's magnetic hands where your hands come together, and that's basically what you do. You go up and you do what's called a pre-test, and that tells you who's suggestible or not, and those are the people you pick. I'm not the world's fastest hypnotist. I take about 6 minutes to put people into trance, into hypnosis, because I think that's a theatrical part of the show. And that process has been there since, well, for a long, long time. It's like a warm-up comedy act. It's like a monologue, right? So you take that 10 minutes, you get them into hypnosis, they see the process of hypnosis. It's kind of a ritual. And then people expect people to do stupid things. Whereas the newer guys that are coming out with the new trainings where you drop them on the floor real quick, you basically grab their arm and yank and say, sleep. That doesn't show the process of what's actually happening. It's still true. It still works. But it doesn't set up the shows that I want to do, if that makes any sense. Yeah. We can equate this to other things as well. You were talking about the Catholic Church earlier, and they are, any church, to be honest, are masters of hypnosis. The true definition of hypnosis, at least for me, is when anyone follows any suggestion. So if you think about when your last time you were in church, what do they have you doing? They have you sitting down quietly. They have you standing up quietly. They have you sitting down, standing up. You're following suggestions over and over and over again. And it's a bit controversial, but that's really what happens. And then I saw the Faith Healer video, by the way. I was on the website earlier. And if you look at how that works, so if you've been standing up, sitting down, stand up, sing a song, now pray to this figure, God.
Right.
And this is any church. It's just not just Christians. It's every single church. It is literally being conditioned to believe a certain thing, which is what hypnosis really is. And then following suggestions.
What was that?
Matt, he says every single church.
No, that church is doing it too. I mean, listen, George Carlin, Richard Pryor, and Robert Williams. They have people chanting along, and you get people chanting along and reciting along. All of a sudden, they are following your suggestion, right?
Yes, which is the technical definition of hypnosis. And then once that has happened, it is not hard to put an unbelievable suggestion that people normally wouldn't follow into somebody's head that they then do follow. It's weird how it works, but the faith healers all work like this. Every single one of them, they literally hypnotize people, whether they believe they're doing it or not, whether they know they're doing it or not, and that's what happens.
Right.
So, sorry if I didn't explain that very well, but it really is how hypnosis works.
There is a real tricky line between using these kind of things for a positive thing and or a negative influence on people. And sometimes I'm not sure of the practitioner is aware of their own intents in doing this stuff, because it can be ego boosting, it can be ego inflating, whatever it is. It can be like seductive to when you realize that people are following you, that you have power over them. So I'm thinking of people like Jim Jones. I don't necessarily think he started out as an evil bastard, but the more he was able to manipulate people, the more seductive it became, right? Or do you buy into that at all?
I do. If you look at any of the televangelists, they start out with very grassroots. Most of them were very poor growing up, and they slowly build up this following based on what they've been taught, and they may not know what they're actually doing. But I want you to look at, when they do the big faith healing, they slap them in the forehead and the whole crowd goes down. You ever watch those videos? Now, what is the difference between that and me saying sleep now and my whole group of volunteers going
right
up?
There's no difference.
It's semantics, and it's the words we use.
And collection
that's
plates.
Literally
There's a collection plate involved also.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. Another example of this, if you really want to get into it, is listen to how, I'm going to bring politics into it, but it's on both sides. But the really evident one was Brock. When he was speaking, he would talk. Yes, we can. And then he'd do 3 more words, 4 more words. Clinton was really good at this. And it's talking in a very specific way that is very hypnotizing. It gets people to say, yes, 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 in their head. That's really what hypnosis is, getting into that yes set and following along. And then when an unbelievable thing comes or something that you wouldn't necessarily want specifically, you still say yes to it because you've been saying yes, yes, yes all along.
Right.
And you just don't disagree with it.
So
it's really weird how some of this works.
So part of the mantra of people talking about hypnosis is say you can't get people to do anything that is against their nature, that they really don't want to do. And I think that is based on short-term immediacy. But I think if you condition people for long enough, you can change what they are willing to do. I'm talking about like a Manchurian Candidate thing, or kind of.
Yes.
You can get people to do things that would be really objectionable to them now, but 2 years later, or after enough period of time of conditioning, you can affect those beliefs and what they're willing to do under hypnosis. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. So, example of this, during the Korean War, prisoners of war, they were taken, and they were the guards would say, "Is there anything wrong with America?" And of course, the soldier would say, "No, there's nothing that I can say is wrong with America." And then they would give them food and say, "Is there anything wrong with America? We can get you more of this if you tell us what's wrong with America." And then the soldier, he's starving to death, right? So he would say, "Well, maybe our political system in this way isn't necessarily right." And the soldier would say, "Well, in Korea, we do this. And it seems to work for us." And they would take that for years and years and years. And over the course of years, this person was slowly convinced through the suggestions of what's going on, slowly given more and more. You'd see the other prisoners, they were starving to death while he was getting food, while he was getting women brought to him. And the more he agreed, the more that he would get. So the guards were slowly turning that person into an anti-American person with all these beliefs. And then they let that prisoner of war go with, I don't know, some thoughts in their heads for a mission.
Right.
And whether they believe it or not, they're sent home, and all of a sudden they're not in a country they know anymore. They're not part of groups that they know anymore. They see things going wrong in their communities, things that, well, that's American. So, hey, I talked about that with the guard. So it's reinforcing those beliefs and it's not just Americans, it's every single country has stuff wrong with it. It doesn't matter who you are.
Right.
So you take that and you put that person who's been effectively hypnotized long-term back into the population by being a prisoner of war. And you basically have a secret agent that is there
Yeah.
that you don't necessarily have specific control over, but they can then sow seeds within the community or commit acts of terrorism on their own. And if you do that with enough people, eventually you have a whole army.
Right. And you chip away at,
Yeah.
at the foundational ideas, just a little chips at a time. Because in any system, you could convince somebody to say, well, our system's not perfect. Well, in what ways is it not perfect? And
Yeah.
it could just start as something just really minor, but you build upon that, and eventually you can end up with a Manchurian candidate or something like that.
Absolutely.
Now, we talked about how seductive it can be. How do you guard against that in yourself, letting the ego get involved in because you see people, if you say sleep and the whole room goes to sleep, that's got to feel like, hey, look at me.
So I'm going to be honest. The best drug in the world is getting on stage. I've tried many others, and there is nothing that compares to getting on that stage and turning a crowd from this guy's a weirdo into holy shit, that's absolutely real. And it's that power. It really is. And comedians feel the same thing. Magicians feel the same thing. It really is that drug that feels better than almost anything else, which is why so many people in showbiz go down the path of like crack and heroin and other stuff. So when you're feeling that, it feels great. But it's important, as any good stage hypnotist will know, is that there is no real power unless you are able to give that up.
Right.
And the audience is only there for an hour or 2 hours. So you're like that for 2 hours. That's it. And you have to be able to separate yourself and go home and know that it'll happen again. And you don't necessarily want to have that power all the time. If a person like me wanted to, we could start a cult. We really could. It wouldn't be that hard. People become hypno junkies. And that sounds bad, but they'll come to every single show that you do publicly.
Yeah.
And they'll want to get hypnotized every time. And you just have to, it's like any other fan base. You just have to separate it and say, hey, this can't happen anymore. And as a hypnotist, you have to be able to let it go. You just do.
Interesting stuff.
What about people who hypnotists that aren't ethical? I mean, it sounds to me like you have a sense of ethics, but not everyone is going to be that ethical.
So in the past, there have been hypnotists that have tried to do stuff that was unethical, getting people naked, getting people to do certain things. There's never actually been a court case where anybody was actually charged, because technically hypnosis is voluntary, technically. But I would argue that it isn't. You're never going to do anything against your moral code. The problem is most of us don't have a moral code. We really don't
know what it is.
So, or we don't know what it is, right? In the right circumstance, both of you would kill somebody in the right circumstance. Yeah. So, like, if somebody was hurting my kid and I had a gun, guess what? That son of a bitch is dead. So, if we have moral codes that are flexible, and we all do, how do we then prevent a hypnotist from doing something bad? Simply put, it's society's moral code that prevents it, which is part of why I do clean shows. I've got 6 kids, and I never want them to see me doing something morally objectionable to what I expect them to be in the future. That sounds weird, but I really don't want them to be hurt by anything that I do.
Wow.
And that's how I'm guided. I don't know how other hypnotists are guided at all.
Sounds so selfish. I'm just saying, how dare you do something for your kids like that? What do you get out of that? I'm just saying,
he's not teasing. He's not teasing. It's just a bad habit he's fallen into, tell people he's just teasing. He's really not teasing. He's not. He means every single word of it. Let me ask you this, because now this is a silly question, but it kind of rooted in some seriousness. If I'm a comedian, my goal is to have the room laughing. As a hypnotist, couldn't you not just go up and get the whole room laughing and tell them to keep laughing for an hour while you go get your check and get the hell out?
So the answer is I could have approximately 50% of the audience laughing until they realized what was going on. The thing about hypnosis is it's very subjective, right? So if a person's not being fed a constant stream or within a specific time frame, they'll come out of it no matter what, right? It's not something you can get stuck in. And to sustain for an hour of laughter without actual suggestions going in would be damn near impossible. If you had a speaker up there or something, it would probably continue. If you had just a track playing, and yeah, it would probably work.
Well, what about the feedback cards? You could probably work some magic on that. Like, make sure everybody leaves you a 5-star review on those feedback cards, and I am being manipulative here, obviously, but I mean.
Absolutely. The thing, because I work corporate, I don't do feedback cards. It's weird, right?
Comedy clubs,
but comedy clubs, absolutely. The thing about that is, I do ask for testimonials, and I'll have the camera set up at the back of the room. And almost every show, if I've got a group of 100 people, 30 people in the audience will go to the back and say, "Holy shit, that was great." So it's kind of nice to have the ability to do that, which 30%, I don't know if you know, but that's a pretty big percentage.
Yeah.
And to have it on video is pretty amazing. So yeah, the feedback thing, absolutely. It's part of every show. And if there's any comedians watching, make sure that you're getting feedback. If there's any hypnotists watching, make sure you're getting feedback. Otherwise, your show's probably shit. It sounds really bad, but that's the truth. If you're not getting feedback, your show's probably not that good.
I'm going to ask you to kind of give some critique of my definition of what hypnosis, because I used to say that hypnosis was a magic trick without props. There is no difference from me doing an invisible card thing, and with an invisible deck of cards, you pick one and I name your card and get it right. It's a mind reading trick, mentalism, but it's a trick. And sometimes I use props and sometimes I don't. But that invisible card trick, there is no prop. There's an imaginary prop, and they go along with it, and they play along with it. And so I always say that hypnosis is just like that. It's just like a magic trick without props. Would you, first of all, give any credence to that description of it? And if not, how would you improve upon that description?
I would almost agree. I would say that all hypnosis really is a comedy improv show with volunteers from the audience. That's what I would say it actually is.
Wow.
Because all you're doing is you're getting people to come up from the audience and do stupid stuff. That's it.
Right.
Sounds really simplified, but yeah, it's a magic trick without props. It really is. I'm into the magic and mentalism world as well. So I can spot some specific differences. For instance, I'm not actually trying to trick anybody. Sounds weird, but I'm not. It's the show is what it is. It's people coming up on stage and doing the stupidest shit imaginable. And for me, it's all to a story. So I like to have a story as well, right? Like any good 3-act play.
It's the assumption that because they're at a hypnotist show and it's clearly on the marquee, comedy hypnotist, that they are going to be willing to play along in a lot of ways, so that they're already preconditioned to. I guess the question I wanted to really ask was, ever walk into a room where people are just reluctant to even volunteer or nobody wants to come up on stage?
I've had one show since 2007 where I didn't get any volunteers to start, and it was like pulling teeth. It was bad. It was a corporate show for an oil company. I won't say who, but it turned out it was for their head office, and everybody in the head office they were doing each other. So nobody wanted to come up on stage and be fearful of doing things. I finally did get 15 people on stage, and I kept 6 of them, but it was like pulling teeth. I had to actually redo the induction again and redo my pre-talk to get people up. It took almost a half hour to get people up on stage. That's the only time I've ever had to do that. Never had a failed show, never had no volunteers, and I've performed in a tiny little bar with only 3 people there, and I hypnotized the oldest cowboy to scream out, "I love fairies," and it was fantastic. And yeah, you just... I've never failed, but I got a wooden table, so I'm going to knock wood.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Because you never know.
You don't want to jinx yourself on that. But do you...
Exactly.
This fear... do you give any people like any kind of warm up to basically say, don't worry about a fear of exposing your deepest, darkest secrets. That can happen, because that is going to be the fear that people have of getting involved. And I don't want to tell people that me and GD are actually lovers. I don't want that to slip out while I'm under a trance or whatever.
So yeah, it all starts with the pre-talk at the beginning of the show. I basically go through, you're not going to do anything with against your moral code. You're not going to say anything. You're not going to give me your debit card number or anything like that you normally wouldn't give me. You're not going to go rob a bank. You're not going to get naked. And the last thing I say, and it's a joke, of course, and it comes out like a joke, is that, and if you're sleeping with whoever's sitting beside you, or maybe somebody who's not sitting beside you, you're not going to talk about that either. And it alleviates the fears. That's the whole point, because hypnosis has this bad rap, right? It goes back to the original movie that had hypnosis in it, Svengali, where he hypnotized a girl and she went and she robbed a bank and she did a bunch of other shit. And people still have this weird misconception of what hypnosis is. The truth is, you're not going to do anything against your morals unless it's a long-term thing.
I could see me and GD standing up and saying, "That's it, we're out of here." As soon as you said they're not going to expose their secrets about sleeping with a chicken or whatever it is, we'd be like, "That's what I came here for. I came here to see people humiliate themselves. I'm out of here. He's not going to make a fool out of anybody. I want people to be made a fool of and exposed."
Well, the truth is, most of us make more of a fool of ourselves in our daily lives than we would on stage anyway. So
that's what I have a show for.
I had one of these for a while too, and I did some stupid things.
What about hecklers? I mean, a guy who says, "You know what? How many hypnotists is in town? I'm going to go mess with this guy. I'm going to go in there and be as reluctant as I can, just be a total asshole and throw a wrench into his works." You ever get that?
Actually, because of how I structure my pre-talk, which is the little bit before the hypnosis, I tell them literally, you cannot be hypnotized if you don't want to. It's impossible. And if you're that person who just wants to come up here and prove me wrong, you're absolutely right. Stay in your seat. I don't want you up here. And I get a little bit mean with it. And I say, you do have to have an IQ over 40 anyway, so you're probably not hypnotizable if you think that way. And it generally weeds out those people.
Very cool.
Every once in a while, I will get somebody come up that is just a complete asshole, for lack of a better word, and you just send them back out in the audience.
Right.
It really is that simple. I'm assuming you've been on stage before. If you've performed comedy, then you know that if somebody's being a dick, you deal with it, period. Right. And I've only ever had one real heckler in the audience, and he kept telling me, "Fuck you, you're a piece of shit." And I said, and he gave me the finger, and I said, "Sir, is that the finger you stick up your ass while you masturbate?" And he just done.
Now, have you tried this?
That's not good for.
Have you tried
That's
this?
not good for corporate clients.
I mean, have you tried this with dealing with assholes? You say, "Let me buy you a drink," and after the second drink, while he's a little loose, a little more receptive, you hypnotize him into pissing his pants. He does just.
No, it could be an option. It could be an option.
One of my favorite comedians is a Canadian, or was a Canadian. Norm Macdonald, who he took a heckler. The guy was heckling him, and he basically stopped the show to have a conversation with this guy and try to win the guy over. Ended up taking him to dinner to have a conversation with him. And that's the weirdest treatment of a heckler I've ever come across, is this idea of I'm going to not care about the rest of the people in the room right now. I'm going to win this guy over, and I'm going to make a friend of this guy, and then end up taking him to dinner at the end of the night. So that's just I don't know if that ties into the hypnosis stuff at all, but it's definitely part of the breaking down the walls part of it.
That's more work than I want to do.
So often. It happens at almost every show. Is I'll have people come up and say, "Hey, I thought this was completely different," because all they've seen is the media, right? A hypnosis show is not that common. And they'll come up and say, "Hey, I thought this was going to be completely different. This isn't what I expected at all. If I had known it was like this, if I know it wasn't going to embarrass you or embarrass me, I would have come up." And I said, "Well, next time you know." And it happens more often than you would think that people actually, once they see it, they want to be part of it. But before that, they've got all these superstitions. Oh, it's mind control. Oh, I'm going to sleep with somebody. Oh, I'm going to suck dick on stage or something. That doesn't happen.
Well, how much money?
If it did, it would be, well, well, $30. Anyway. Canadian.
Oh,
so.
damn. Okay, forget it.
But people are worried they're going to do stuff that is against their moral code, and that's just not what happens. If it was what happened, hypnosis shows would not exist, because there would be a huge outcry, especially in today's day and age, about, oh, he made me do that, or he made me do this. No, that's not how it works. It would be not beneficial to what I do as a business to make people feel bad when they come up and volunteer.
Absolutely. You want them to leave wanting more of it. You want them to come back, and you want them to tell their friends good things about it. So there's all of that. Now, you mentioned that it's kind of rare to see hypnosis shows. This is now it is, but I think it comes in cycles. Do you think there's a cyclical thing to this where it becomes more popular, becomes less popular? Because in the 80s, there was lots of it. There was, I could go down a list of guys who were working Vegas and all those kind of stuff, who were stage hypnotists, and then it kind of dulled down. And then there was in the mid 90s, there was a brief period where it started to become more popular again. It's not that common now, but I'm wondering if it's on an upswing. Is it cyclical?
So the answer is yes. It's like magic, right? Magic pays the same now as it did in the 80s, right? So there was a huge influx in the 90s from guys like Justin Trans, and Pat Collins was in Vegas, and they were doing those shows that were really, really good. Ravine was down there, and we had all these guys up in Canada. We had major hypnosis here. Ravine was idolized across the country because he'd go to every small town with 300 people, and he'd book the hall there, and he'd do a hypnosis show. And it slowly petered down to the 90s, and there was a big uptick in the 90s because people were into it. And then it died. And then again in 2005, 2008, it really had a big period then when I first got into it, thank goodness. And then it petered off for when COVID hit, should have been the cycle again, should have been it really getting popular. And now that COVID's done, live events everywhere have went right through the roof. So there are more bookings. The problem is, just like comedy, the rates have stayed the same as they did from the 80s. And they have, or they've went down. There used to be a time when a comedian could get $800 a night. There was a time when that happened if they were any good. And that was just starting out. If like a year in the business had a good half-hour show, you could get $800. Nowadays, you either hyper systemize to a very, very specific audience, or for lack of a better term, you're screwed. You can't get into the business properly. Sorry for being so long-winded.
No, that's fine. Good
yes,
answer.
Yes, it runs in cycles. It runs in cycles.
Yeah. Now we have to say goodbye to Gov's Comedy Club right now. Gov's, I don't even know who you got there this weekend, but it's a good show. Just go to Governor's Comedy Club, one of the three here on Long Island. Bye, Govs. We'll see you tomorrow.